Welcome to the Game On podcast tonight. An absolute beauty for Sturt. Congratulations on winning the 2025 SANFL Premiership. And an AFL legend of the Adelaide Football Club retires, but waiting on the answer of another one. Brisbane keep the dream alive of going back-to-back. Another grand final berth. And Geelong show why they've been the most consistent team for a long, long time. All right, let's do this. Welcome to the Game On podcast. My name's Pete. Once again joined here in the studio with Malcolm. And Malcolm, how has your week been? I know that there's some local grand finals that have been on it and you've been out and about it.
Yeah, I ended up at Kilburn to watch Marion v Pulteney with the H Clan, and it was a draw in normal time, and Marion defeated Pulteney in overtime.
Overtime?
Yes. So it was Joel kicked 6, and it was either at a 9 or 10.
Yep.
Trying to remember. And was the gun, but unfortunately they didn't get the bickies, but it was a good game.
Not enough contributors?
Yeah. Oh, look, I saw probably a quarter and a half of that.
Yep.
Look, all the best to a Fitzroy player. I admit I don't know the name. Yep. Broke his leg, and I will say it is the worst injury I've ever seen.
Yep.
Now, I reckon I've watched 1 or 2 games of footy in my life.
Absolutely.
Pete, and it was very similar to Nathan Brown's injury.
Yep.
And I will say full credit to SANFL, the way they got out on the ground and quickly put the screen up and got him off, and the ambulance was there pretty quickly and all that side of things. So, yeah, credit there and all the best. At least his team did win.
Yes, the old green whistle would have got a bit of a working over on the shot.
Hammering.
Absolutely. You're out and about amongst the crowd for the SANFL Grand Final as well, mate?
Oh, I noticed ended up at pubs around the traps and, caught up with a few people in time.
Yep.
Ended up with a Nord photographer at the Lockleys watching the last bit with the great man. So, caught up with a few people. I admit I did okay on Sunday.
Absolutely.
So right.
Well, if you haven't got your book by now, we've got Christmas coming up, so we'll keep plugging it for then, mate. All right, mate, let's have a look at Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, coming up in Around the Grounds, we'll talk a bit more on the SANFL a little bit later. We'll also talk some basketball and also some AFLW. But let's kick off with the biggest week in AFL. Grand Final week is always the biggest week going around. Let's talk about the Brownlow last night. Let's start off there, mate. Some interesting results along the way. And also congratulations to Matty Rao on winning the Brownlow. But there was a few things that left a few people scratching their head.
I'll always say, as an umpire, there are games you came off the ground, you had no idea who was 3-2-1. And even like the 3 might have stood out. You didn't know on the 2 or 1, or 3 and 2 stood out, had no idea on the 1. And look, there was some bizarre ones. Look, it was embarrassing on the Wanganeen Malira. Look, he was BOG by that far, even ignoring the last 2 goals. He's played the greatest minute by an individual ever. And that was inexplicable, and it was embarrassing. The derision of actually the Melbourne table laughing as Jay Viney got the 3 votes, not just UBU. They actually just burst out laughing. Now it's not good.
It does make umpiring or the voting on the Brownlow from umpires a little bit. It sort of sways us away from it a bit more than what we were before the Brownlow, wasn't it?
Yeah, no. And there was a game where Rao got 3 votes against Adelaide in round 4, and I think it was Peatling, but I know that Adelaide were absolutely wrapped on the job he did on thing, and his stats weren't great. And I think he had 8 to 10 clangers that game as well, and yet the 3 votes, bizarre.
Absolutely. Well, ended up winning by quite a margin. It may not have mattered, but at the same time, it was a pretty fair effort as well. Nick Dacos finds himself in familiar territory at number 2 once again.
Yeah, incredible.
First player to reach 100 Brownlow votes and not actually hold a Brownlow.
Yeah. Look, I hope he wins one. Yeah, because I think all of us were still scratching our head. Our Cripps got 45 votes last year.
Even as a Carlton man,
that was
I'm scratching my head.
crazy as well. So yeah, it's been a couple of bizarre years, really.
How does the AFL move forward with that? Do they look to do a panel like they do the All Australian squad, or is it done through?
I think purely the tradition of it.
Yep.
I don't think you can remove it from the umpires. Now, whether they don't vote straight away and all get together to watch the game again, I think would be one potential way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure.
Would that be something they could bring in if they went full time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's probably the time
because
constraints.
you could do it the next day. Bang. And I think also being given stats sheet would help a bit. But, yeah, again, things like the ruckman being ignored last night. There were several games where Tristan Cherry absolutely dominated, and it definitely had to be in the votes, and wasn't. So yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
Speaking of ruckman, Max Gawn was obviously well and truly up there once again, but he has form, so it's easy for those players to be noticed if they've already got form. And has it become too much of a midfielder's medal? And what do we do to change? Do we have 3 medals for a midfielder, back and a forward?
That's also the one. I'd still love to see for me, the most prestigious award is the Coach's Trophy.
Yep.
Now, the MVP should be right up there as well, voted by your peers.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't help. The male was that it was Jono Brown. Now, whether that's correct or not, but that was the male that he decided spread it around as a joke on the most courageous award.
Yes.
And that didn't help. Nathan Loney it was.
Yep.
Didn't help in terms of getting the respect the trophies there, because being respected among your peers and the Coach's Trophy should be the most prestigious awards.
Yep.
An umpire's award, why that's
the be-all and end-all.
Yeah, is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Speaking of the Brownlow night, obviously a few other awards were named on the night. I was left a little bit flat with the goal of the year and the mark of the year. They whittled it down to 3 potentials, but personally I thought there was probably at least 4 or 5 in there that should have made that final cut. Now, I don't know the process behind that, whether that's a voting by the public.
No, I think it's by that panel, is my understanding.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm with you a bit there. I thought there was a couple of...
Well, the Rankin goal, against Hawthorn, where he had 2 opponents hanging off of him and he, tight angle. I think there was another one from one of the Ashcroft boys. The other one got nominated, but one of the other ones was there as well. So, it just left me sort of scratching my head a little bit as well. So,
I'm not 100% sure on how that's
No, that's okay. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Let's also talk about the rising star, Dan Curtin, obviously from an Adelaide point of view. That's where we're going to focus a little bit. He finishes runner-up. Do you think that's about right for the year that he had? Yeah, I thought it was,
actually. I thought Reid was the most consistent overall and probably held his form more. I think Dan Curtin had
started slow,
build up, and then probably fell away the last month and didn't have a great final series either.
Yep.
So I thought Reid was the right choice.
Yep.
There.
He seemed to be on the go right from round 1. So
he'll kick that 4 goals in 8 minutes in the round 1, and I think he was well and truly the worthy winner.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk Adelaide as far as the Brownlow medal go. Jordan Dawson obviously finishing 4th in the Brownlow overall. Rankin was an interesting one. Obviously scored some big votes there as well. I know you want to talk about it in the rulebook rant maybe a little bit later as to why he was still eligible. So we'll talk about that then. And Riley Thilthorpe. So the 3 big pillars for Adelaide really were the vote getters. Is it a case of those 3 doing a little bit too much and it was found out during this final series? I know Rankin wasn't there, but is it a case of that?
Look, I think Rankin not being there, and you're just not sure how that, as we spoke, mentioned it last week, where some players would have been ropeable with him, some would be ropeable with the AFL.
Yep.
I think it's a ridiculous punishment.
Yep.
And also just not being there. And Dawson wasn't anywhere near as good in the finals. You wonder mentally as captain how much that affect. But also, Adelaide just looked gun shy in the final. they didn't look like they were out to enjoy it. It was almost a
Don't want to make a mistake.
And that where, have a look at last week. Gallup for Brisbane, his fourth game, he was sensational. And they looked like they were out there, have a crack. And for mine, Adelaide's mentally were terrible in both finals. They were afraid of losing instead of just.
Was it a case of overstimulation?
Yeah, I think so. And just,
And the Rankin incident.
I know that snowballed.
Long season. So is it a case of that everything caught up with Adelaide? Because they did go on a 9-game run there for.
Yeah, let's also remember that they did hit the front in the second quarter against Collingwood. Now, if you just don't know if Rankin's out there, what would happen? He is their spark. He's their, with Dawson, the best two players. So you just don't know.
Absolutely. We did talk about it in the opening. Brodie Smith obviously announcing his retirement. Absolute stellar career for Adelaide when you think about it. 15 years, always there or thereabouts in the best players each week, and such a vital cog for them.
Oh, and huge when he got injured in 2017. Again, you don't know what would have happened, but he was a massive out.
Would you think that result would have been a touch closer if he did play?
Oh, no doubt it would have been closer. You just don't know. Him and McGowan getting injured was big back then.
Yep. The word is out. Obviously, waiting on Taylor Walker and his decision. I know we sort of talked about it a little bit last week. We're a week older now, and maybe a week wiser. Some would probably disagree with us there. But do we see him going on for one more year?
I think it's still real 50-50. You're hearing some are saying he's going to, some are saying he's not. I admit I haven't chased it up to a huge extent.
Yep.
Just waiting to see. I hope he does, but still not sure.
It's going to be an interesting watch, that's for sure. We did mention it a little bit earlier. Congratulations to Dan Curtin, obviously finishing second in the Rising Star nominations. All right, delistings are part of the AFL, and Adelaide have looked to delist a few to boost their squad. What are we expecting with those delistings, and how is that going to play a part in the trade period and also the upcoming draft?
Oh, you just don't really know. And look, last year, Neil Bullen nominated Adelaide, so that came out reasonably early for Adelaide. But Peatling and Cumming, that came pretty late. So I'm sure there's players behind the scenes that they're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
And to Adelaide's credit on that one, that really gets out. So I think that's a big tick for Adelaide.
Yep.
So, at the moment, you're going to hear 8 million names. Look, Petrarca, the latest today is saying it'll be Gold Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Elliott today it's saying it's Gold Coast. So all of a sudden they're the flavour of the month at the moment.
Yep.
Wait and see. Wait and see.
What's your gut feel on, say, a Petrarca or a Bailey? It looks like Archie's going to nominate Adelaide. That one's been out in the ether for a couple of weeks now. But what are your thoughts on the first two there? I know they're going to get tossed around everywhere, but are Adelaide a realistic chance of picking up those two players, or at least one of the two?
Well, you just don't know. Look, it's sounding like now. Would you want to leave Brisbane at the moment? Like, unless Zach's desperate to come back to Adelaide, and look, he did his schooling here, boarded late at Prince's.
Yep.
I think he only played a couple of junior games for Nord.
Yes.
If that.
Yes.
So it's not like it's been a huge thing here. Yeah. So, again, I'm taking Brisbane. Who knows how long their reign's going to go for? I know I wouldn't want to leave.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit later in some of our AFL topics, but I think we'll do it now because obviously I think Adelaide are following the same path of what Brisbane are doing in that they have built that base of those young players, but it's adding that little bit of experience is what Brisbane have done 3 or 4 years ago. With, say, a Joey Danaher and other Zorko and sorry, not Zorko, Neil over from WA and bits and pieces like that. Adelaide need to do or have been looking to do the same, hence the reason why they are quite important players for them to target. Neil Bullen was a bonus. Does that help with the Petrarca being friends? I mean, because it looks like a lot of these players are moving to where they are most comfortable with other people that were at their original club.
if I'm saying at the moment, if Petrarca's moving purely to wanting success, well, Gold Coast probably makes the logical choice.
Yes.
But do you also still want to play in front of big crowds and things like that? Well, surely Adelaide's more of a lure than there. Does he want to live in the Gold Coast where probably not going to be noticed so much, have a bit more of a normal lifestyle potentially there as well? But
that's not his. I mean, he does TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. Brisbane obviously have sustained success for the last few years. They're young. I've got this here that Brisbane, their youth is what's actually underpinning everything.
And they've got a couple more to come. Daniel Arnaby, have you pronounced his name?
Yep.
You know, they're saying he would have been in. He's a top 5 choice.
Yep.
Things like that. You've had Oscar Allen nominate.
Yep.
Draper. We're waiting to see if Ridley does as well. So yeah, that's immediately putting them
right back
up there.
Are they a club a little bit like Port Adelaide that can't afford to have that drop in their ladder position?
Yeah, but I think I'm wondering now if the Brisbane supporters become a bit more loyal and all that. But purely at the moment, you're thinking they're going to be around the mark again for another 3 to 5 years.
That's right.
You know.
It's a scary proposition, isn't it?
Is.
All right, let's move on to Port Adelaide. Zach Butters, Connor Rosie, and Jason Horne-Francis were the leading players for Port Adelaide. No surprises there, really. Horne-Francis, obviously, when he was fit and available to play, scores some votes as well, and Butters and Rosie have been there. I did hear a conversation about where they should potentially play Rosie next year. Are you a big fan of him going back into the middle full-time, or do you like him off that halfback?
I like him playing a bit of both. Yeah, I still like him at halfback. I reckon it's harder to tag there in that way.
Yep.
You know, and he dominated down at halfback. Like, we were at that first showdown. He was best on ground by a mile.
Absolutely. And he did get the 3 votes, so the umpires did get it right on that occasion.
So I like him still at halfback as well.
Yep. He's that versatile player. He seemed to find his confidence when he did go back to that halfback line and lost it a little bit when he was in the middle. So it'll be an interesting watch.
Still got nightmares of him in 2018.
Yes.
Dominated.
I know there's plenty of people that will remind you of that, especially North Adelaide people. All right, let's move on. Andy Collins signs on with Port Adelaide as a Director of Coaching. A good appointment?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I reckon I found that out Wednesday morning last week.
Yep.
So a bit unlucky that we didn't get that.
We couldn't break it.
Last week's show. So, yes, it's an interesting appointment. So,
you've got Josh Carr, who, I don't know, gives the impression that he's going to be attacking, and I think he's come out and sort of said that we're going to have a lot of fun.
And he certainly was at North Adelaide.
Correct. Is Andy Collins to come in to help balance that out a little bit with a little bit of defence, considering we know his past coaching at West Adelaide?
Attack was not his strength.
Yep.
Yes.
So do you think that's a part of that balance, the yin and the yang?
Hopefully, let's just say, his tactics are. I've never been so relaxed going to a grand final in my life as 2012, and his tactics were bizarre.
Yep. Hopefully he's learned a thing or two from Port Adelaide's point of view since then, which I think he has anyway as well. All right, Port's moving into a new phase with a newly created position, Director of Athletic Performance. Is it a title, or is it something that they're looking to change? Because there's a lot of change down at Port Adelaide, and it is a new era. These things?
Take the title with a grain of salt, personally. Yep. Like, you've still got Stewie Graham, who's very highly respected down there in the fitness side of games. So, I'd say it's another person helping.
Yep. Is it a case of that's industry-wide best practice, or is this something new that sort of they're looking to trial? Or
possibly, you've got Burgess pretty well obviously respected over the years, and he's, Adelaide this year had a very good injury record in general. Yep. So,
should be an interesting one there. Zach Brody nominates.
Will Brody.
Will Brody nominates Port Adelaide as his club of choice during this Port Adelaide period. I'm assuming just purely through relationships for when Josh Carr was at Fremantle.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because he's an inside mid, and you'd think they've got enough inside mid. So, yeah, okay. I find that an interesting choice.
Is that a case to maybe release Horn Francis a little bit or a Rosie a little bit?
I think it's more like, for mine, he's similar to Drew and similar to Ollie Wines. So, yeah, I don't quite get it. So we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the big one, mate. Grand final. Geelong v Hawthorn, but let's rewind to the prelim finals.
Geelong v Brisbane.
Geelong v Brisbane. Yep. There you go. I'm so flustered and excited for the grand final. Let's talk about the prelim finals. They were obviously two fantastic games. Brisbane sort of did the job for what the rest of Australia wanted, is didn't want to see Collingwood in a grand final. I thought that was a bit of fun being had there, but they were in a little bit of trouble early. They were a little bit shaky, but once they got going, they kicked 7 of the next 9
their
goals.
first quarter was fantastic. Yep. They were up by 3 or 4, and then Collingwood dominated the second quarter and were 11 points up at half time. And, yeah, the big, huge moment was an amazingly Collingwood breaking down defensively. It was no one picking up Zach Bailey at a stoppage, and he just waltzed through. It was well done by Brisbane, but, yeah, it was bizarre that someone didn't pick him up. They did get, and they got in shocking position where Rayner got a goal at a stoppage. And also, one was a bit fluky where Will Ashcroft socked us off the ground. But again, they're bizarrely for Collingwood have been so brilliant in that area where, poor. So, yeah, it was interesting.
Bit of a brain fade.
Yeah, you also wonder how much influence Pendlebury has in that way.
Him going off injured wasn't ideal.
He probably shouldn't have played in the end. So they thought they seemed to be thinking about subbing him in the warm-up and then didn't. 5 minutes in, so it turns out to be a pretty big call. So
absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about Brisbane very briefly here. Their youth, which we talked about a little bit of, holds them in good stead for the next few years. They're going to add to that list. Do we see them potentially, if they can get over the line on Saturday against Geelong, can they go the 4?
Who knows? But they're going to be around the mark. There's no doubt about that. With who they, who's committed, who wants to go there, that they're going to be really hard to beat. As we said, they pick up another youngster, at least one, maybe 2 for out of the academy who are meant to be right, And now Marshall looked good on the weekend. That was his best game so far. As we said, Gallup, 4th game overall, I think it was. He actually debuted here against Adelaide. And he was fantastic. A couple of especially one real big pack mark. So again,
whatever's in the water in Queensland is going all right at the moment, and well done, obviously, to the AFL for, I don't want to say propping up because that's not what they've done, in supporting, obviously, those academies and actually, turning those local players into stars for their respective sides up there in Queensland. So well done to them. All right, let's talk about Collingwood briefly, mate. Is it a case of that they are too old?
Well, it's interesting too that Collingwood and Hawthorn both lost last week. Now, I reckon that also probably questions Adelaide even a bit more in the final series. And, yeah, Collingwood did look a bit okay. A poor decision Elliott not to get the free kick, which would have made it 6 points to difference.
Yes.
It was a shocking decision.
Well, I've seen it in slow motion. I mean, it's obviously easy to see it in slow motion, but the Brisbane player only has eyes for the ball. Is that a case of the rule needs to be changed? You've gone to the front. As soon as you're in front of me, I run back and impede you. It's automatic. Now, they pay during the year, and they have, which annoys the shit out of me. Incidental contact. That one's not. That's just a real easy one. That's just a blatant free every day of the week. Would you be happy if the rule did change that if the player has actually got eyes for the ball? Because he's almost doing exactly the same if he comes in from the side and also from behind.
Yeah, but from the side of that, you're not impeding the guy. You got to remember, I'm running back. And then contact.
But it was all about space.
Yeah, For mine, it's just a blatant free.
Okay.
And I've got no problem with that one. That's personally.
Well, and from a rule book point of view, you've obviously seen plenty of it, and you're saying it's a free kick.
Yep.
I'd be a little bit the other way, going, if the player's committed to the ball,
I know
100%,
what you mean.
he sort of didn't come. He didn't come
he
straight
did
back at him. He sort of came from the angle.
He did it pretty well. I'll give him that, but it's still a free kick.
Yep. So does that come under the auspice, I suppose, of chopping the arms?
Yep.
Fair enough. Yes, Collingwood, too old, too slow. They proved a few wrong, but the year is long enough that these players do run out of puff.
Still side bottom, pulled out of a contest to mark in the last quarter.
That's
too,
a good sign,
which
isn't
that was pretty disappointing. And he ducked his head, and he should have marked, and it would have been a shot for goal.
Yep.
And he was on McLeodge early, and he got just chopped up.
Yep.
And again, he'd looked all Australian earlier in the year, and then
and Darcy Moore looked amazing against Adelaide, but couldn't replicate it, which has basically been the story of his season, hasn't it?
Yeah, I thought he wasn't too bad. Thought he was better than some. He was certainly better than side bottom.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
But yeah, it did look. They need some pace. In that side.
Houston, a fail or wait and see on the basis that it does take a year to settle in?
Hopefully, it's a year to settle. He's a fail at the moment for what they gave up for him, and they needed far more than that. He had a bloody average year. Considering Port Adelaide. Yeah, he was the best halfback flanker in the comp for quite a while, and yet he was probably only kept his spot because who he was a couple of times during the year.
And what they paid for him too.
Yeah, and that. So, yeah, they'll need far more than that.
Does McRae look to deploy him elsewhere?
Yeah, I would have put him on ball during the year.
Just to get him into...
Yeah, trying to get him around and that. And I think they then tried to use him as the designated kicker, to use him more and get him involved more. It sort of petered out a bit.
Teams are awake to it.
And that, and just, unfortunately, he just didn't do anywhere near enough.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the Hawthorn-Geelong game. Let's talk about Patrick Dangerfield first up. He was just manic, absolutely, throwing himself at the contest like he's a young guy playing in his first preliminary final. Is it a case of him turning back the clock, or is it a case of that be wary of the older player that might want to finish on a high?
Oh, look, I think he's got a pretty reasonable September record overall. And look, I think the other thing too, you've got to remember, he's been consistently, and he was at Adelaide, purely because he was here in Adelaide. I don't think he got as much kudos overall. It's funny how you're suddenly a better player when you're back in Melbourne. He was the dominant 3 or 4 players in the comp while he was here. He's a champion, an absolute champion, and to do that at the age of 35 and be the best on player by an absolute mile.
He was just manic.
Oh, he was just brilliant. It's hardly gone in the centre bounce. Very rarely during the year. Ball won the prelim. There he is, and he was sensational. Look, I hope he does it again this week.
I was going to say, do you think he can back it up 2 weeks in a row?
It's big. It'll be just be interesting to see what Brisbane tactically are with him. Look, I think Bailey Smith and Holmes probably are the automatics there. But do they go Dunkley? Do they decide, right, we're going to go Dangerfield if he starts on the ball, it's Dunkley? It'll be interesting to see.
It will be, that's for sure. Also tonight he wins the Fox Footy car that was up. So he hasn't got a brand new Mustang. He can loan it out to us for a couple of weeks. Would be quite nice.
I don't think he struggles.
Exactly right.
No, actually, I tell you where I do enjoy him. He does a fishing show in SEN on Saturday mornings, and because I'm quite often out driving at that time, taking my son to work, I listen to it a fair bit. He loves his fishing.
Absolutely. He'll be one that steps obviously straight into
I think
the
he will
media
be able to
as
do
well.
what he likes.
If they win, do you see him retiring?
He loves the game. I wouldn't be surprised if he still keeps going. I really wouldn't. And he's while his hamstrings are always a question mark, Scott's managed to get him seemingly to the line here.
Well,
and to dominate a prelim final like that. I know he was disappointed he didn't win the Norm Smith, and I thought he should have in 2022. I thought he was clearly best on ground while the game was up for grabs. So I thought it was a bit crazy because Isaac Smith dominated when the game was over. So I found that was a bizarre selection. Let's see how he goes.
Is it a case of these older players these days have timed their runs a lot better? And considering Geelong are in the finals every year, they've been able to experiment with it a little bit over the last few years to get it right. Is it a case of they've got him absolutely cherry ripe?
Well, he looked perfect the other night.
We'll soon find out on Saturday as well. All right, on the flip side, let's talk Hawthorn quickly. Lots of upside for Hawthorn, isn't there?
Yeah, and look, full credit Chris Scott. Like Mullen going to Watson was a surprise. We thought he'd either, Mullen would have gone to we thought to Newcomb, whatever. To Watson wasn't expect, but he nailed it again. And geez, Chris Scott doesn't get too many of them wrong.
Yep.
So.
Hawthorn obviously need to just bolster one or two areas within the club. What's their biggest priority? Because last year they obviously got Battle and Barras in the back lines. Is it a midfield?
It's midfielder, and they're full ball for merit at the moment. So we'll just wait and see.
That clearly makes them a better side next year.
Getting Will Day back's probably just
even bigger.
Yeah.
Local SA lad as well. Before we saw the result tonight, Mabio Chol gets 3 for his tackle on Sturt, but that has actually been thrown out.
Paul Curtis is the most unlucky player in the competition. That's my point there. Look, it's crazy. The rules got to get... It's got to be... Adjusted and all that. And look, Kane Corns is spot on where he said, well, hang on. That's a legal tackle in the game at the moment. And then you're getting 3 games afterwards. He said, surely it's got to be a free kick at the time. And I thought, you can't argue with that logic. So, I'm glad he got off because I thought it was. I thought it was fine.
Yes.
And it was just a footy accident. But,
I think that's what we've also got to legislate for football accidents as well. Or football
motions. They're so scared of what's happening.
And
I know we get that. But I thought Curtis's was even more.
Yes.
So
totally agree.
That was ridiculous.
All right, let's move on to the big one this weekend, mate. Geelong v Brisbane. What are your first thoughts?
Oh, look, it's harder to travel again another week. Look, I'm Geelong. Stewart's a big out.
Does Lockie Neal play? That was going to be my next question.
Sounding like he's going to. I wouldn't in terms of
bringing injured players in for grand finals.
Calf. I could just see it going ping the first ever time he's trying to sprint flat out. Like you can bluff your way through fitness tests. Now, unless they're going to absolutely hammer him in a fitness test and make him sprint, I wouldn't play him. So yeah. And interestingly enough, it's quite bizarre. Ashcroft seems to step up even more while he's not there. And it gets Levi more inside as well. So it's crazy. He's one of the best players of the comp. We acknowledge that.
But they almost do better without him.
It's crazy. So, it's a big call. Big call.
Don't take injured players in the grand final. Speaking of Tom Stewart, the question has been raised whether the bye round should be the week before the grand final or the week before the finals. We've talked about it briefly, but what are your thoughts now that we've actually seen it in practice now?
I think we need to get KT back on the show because I want a bit of an update. Look, spoke to him briefly Saturday, the week before. It'd be interesting to get his because he's also involved in America in it. So I just think because there's no point in doing it if the concussion thing then gets lengthened, what they've got to stand out. So
I know they were trying to get him up for this weekend to change the rules. That's just ridiculous.
That was
tongue in cheek. I get it, but bringing the bye week in before the grand final would probably alleviate that. But the problem is you either have the wildcard weekend or the pre-grand final bye.
And it's more and more buys. So it's a hard one. Look, I think it will come in. If the concussion protocol is not lengthened,
Yep.
I can see it coming in because they don't want this to happen.
Yep.
It's funny that it suddenly happens to a male player. There wasn't the carry-on with Chelsea Randall, and hers was way more controversial than Sturt's too.
Yes.
So-
She was basically ready to play as well. Yes, it's going to be interesting. So Geelong for you,
Yeah.
can we got a margin? Can we squeeze a margin out
I'll
of
go
you?
28 points.
28 points to Geelong. I reckon it's going to be a close contest, and I reckon 15 points to Geelong. They have been the best team all year. They have been probably the best team of the last decade. What has Scott got to do to get that Premiership Cup in his hands? Who's going to be the one linchpin for you?
I think Holmes and Bailey Smith working together.
Yep.
There. Look, I don't think you're not expecting Ford and McInerney to dominate in ruck.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they go Blitzars there or whether they bring Stanley back in and Blitzars goes back with Stewart outs potentially.
Yep.
So just got to wait and see what happens there. But
You reckon it's the flexibility of Geelong that's probably the one key driver?
yeah, and Jeremy Cameron and that. Look, he hasn't obliterated a final game yet. He's been okay, but wouldn't be.
Surprised if he turns one on. It would be interesting to see if Dangerfield obviously goes up. Can you mount a case for Brisbane?
Oh, very much so.
Yep.
Definitely. I think, if they if their midfield gets on top, let's remember Sydney last year, we all thought that was going to be a close game right down to the wire. And, I remember out of that, it was a real toss the coin, who knows? And then they obliterated Sydney. So, they're back to the big dance 3 years in a row. So it's not like they're lacking there.
Mm-hmm. Finals experience is everything,
Wilmot,
isn't it?
Zorko running out of defence, Harris Andrews. It'll be interesting to see what Geelong try and do there. So there's so many different
Permutations.
and tactically,
Yeah.
there'll be some big calls, which will be really interesting in the first few minutes.
All right, mate. We've obviously spoken grand final. We better get off to a quick break and talk some SANFL and also some AFL hot topics. We'll run through them very, very quickly. And let's have a look at what's coming up, mate. Sturt obviously winning the SANFL grand final in style. They were the best team all year. And Adelaide finish off quite well in the AFLW, a big last quarter. And the Laver Cup, some interesting results along the way, but the world team get up over Team Europe. And the Adelaide 36ers might be without one of their star players.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Are dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde, for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Right, as per usual, we thank our sponsors for helping us out on the
thank you,
podcast.
Craig.
Absolutely. All right, mate, let's keep moving on. We did talk, obviously, AFL finals. Let's talk about some really hot topics. Gold Coast basically won most of the awards on the night there. Noah Anderson and Matty Rao. Are they the best Batman-Robin combination, or do Judd and Cousins have a bit of a mortgage on that?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if Anderson and Rao make their run in the next few years. Yeah. So, I love Rao as a player. He's just so hard, and then Anderson's so classy. So, incredible. Dacos at school with him as well.
Yes.
Geez, imagine playing against that school side.
Yeah, you'd be shaking in your boots, that's for sure there. Curnow to Geelong, seriously not.
Yeah, wait and see again. There'll be 8 million rumours.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah,
Patrick Dangerfield last night didn't exactly help with that, saying that he's going to visit him at their pub on his day off, see how things are going down there.
He's very good. He's very dry, Dangerfield, with stuff like that. He's pretty clever. He's so polished to come up with stuff
Absolutely.
like that.
Rankin, the by male player, has come out and said that he doesn't blame Isaac Rankin. He thinks it's more of a sustained problem within the AFL. Do you agree with that?
Look, I've made the point personally. For mine now, it's no big deal. Go a couple walks in there now. Hi, how are you? How you going?
Yep.
It's just not a drama. I don't believe it's an issue in society. It shouldn't be an issue in the AFL. I just think I think they've got it all wrong there, and that's been also from talking to people behind the scenes that it's not helping, it's hindering, and I just think I personally think it's ridiculous. So that's my own opinion.
All right, mate. Last one. Zach Merritt, we did talk about it just briefly. What are your thoughts? Obviously, Essendon have come out today and the president has walked away. Does that help his cause to go back to Essendon, or is it a case of that Hawthorn are all chips in and he sort of all chips in on them?
Yeah, I don't think he's a definite out yet. And Andrew Welsh comes in as president, past player, pretty well respected, pretty well loved. He'll be working on him the next few days. Look, I think it's a fair bit of water to go under the bridge yet.
Yep. I don't have any information here with me right at the moment, but it's probably being awarded as we speak. Coach of the Year, who have you got as your Coach of the Year?
Well, the Coach of the Year is the premiership coach, is the way they do it.
Yep.
So there.
But if you're taking out the finals and the premiership, who is the Coach of the Year? Is it Chris Scott for obviously his continued success in getting Geelong to prelim finals? Is it Fagan because they had one of the hardest draws, or is it someone like a Matty Nix who took his team from 15th to 1st?
But then I just don't think you could go Nix because Adelaide was so uncompetitive. It wasn't a case that they just, they were terrible. So I think because I think up till then, yes, he had it.
Yep.
But I think unfortunately, it is who wins on the weekend, because I just think that then you can make a good case for Scott or Fagan at the moment.
Yep.
Well, whoever gets up on the weekend ends up getting it.
And they are the two best teams, and I think we've sort of acknowledged that as the year's gone on. All right, mate, let's move on to the SANFL. Sturt versus Glenelg in the grand final. It didn't disappoint, but Sturt were again one of the better teams, the best team all year, and they proved way too strong in the grand final.
Yeah, and look, bit of a personal one there. My son works in the disability sector. Took a gentleman along on the weekend.
Yep.
And, awesome is what I'll say.
Yes.
And, fantastic.
Absolutely.
I've got to be a bit careful there what I was
No,
going to say.
that's okay. Grand finals don't come around every week, so good to get along to those grand finals and take people with you.
Yeah, look, and Sturt were just too good. Anderson, Lewis on ball, high up forward. They've been the best team. Let's remember they only lost one game for the year.
Yep.
And that was down to the wire.
Well, they should have lost 2 games for the year.
They
If
should have lost against Nord.
Nord had somebody behind the ball, then probably would have been all right there. But Marty Mattner, clearly the best SANFL coach at the moment, because obviously Bass is coming back to West Adelaide. It'll be very interesting to see what he brings to the West Adelaide Footy Club. But he's just a step ahead of everybody else.
Oh, look, and to his credit, Sturt were too defensive. Like, they got shown up in last year's finals where they were this way, and they took the shackles off. went, right, okay, we're going to get a couple more goals on average kicked against us,
Mm-hmm.
but we want to kick another 4 or 5 themselves, and that's exactly what they did. So full credit there. And they were way more attacked. They took more risks. They played on. They weren't so systematic and that. And they were the best side, and by a long way.
Yep.
You know, it's pretty incredible that a side can dominate to that extent.
Yep.
To only lose one game for the year, and really the grand final was over pretty early, probably 15 to 20 minutes in.
Yep.
Is
it a case of Glenelg ran out of puff, or is it a case of Sturt just being that well too drilled, well too disciplined? And
bit of both, I think.
Yep.
Bit of both, but I think Sturt were the best side by that far. I think they would have.
Yep. Could you have mounted a case if Nord had made the grand final?
I think Sturt would have been too good, but unfortunately we'll
don't
never know.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying that Glenelg obviously going for 3 in a row, that's a fair achievement in itself.
Exactly.
It would have been very interesting to see how that went there. Are there any changes you'd like to make to the SANFL to make it more attractive to supporters, or do the AFL need to be involved with this as well?
Bit of everything. I don't think SANFL clubs help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to get back time passing night, get some. I'm running a kids coaching clinic, not next week after. I'll tell you now, there'll be 80 kids there.
Yes.
And you'll be lucky to have 2 in SANFL gear. And
I'm sure they might win a prize or 2 if they are.
And just got to be smarter and get themselves out there, because you've got a kid now, they don't even know an SANFL player is.
Yep.
So
they
don't help themselves.
Does the AFL get involved as far as potentially offering offset memberships?
Yeah, there's definite areas. And look, did interview in terms of AFL wise,
Gil McLaughlin.
Yep. And Peter Carey did ask that about support for SANFL, and I thought it was the one question where Gillen struggled a bit on personally.
Yep.
His answer, he did point out how much money goes back in terms of keeping clubs alive and country, and it's going to happen. But I don't think at SANFL level it got showed up, hey, there's not enough.
Yep.
And I just think there should be a lot more done in that way.
Yep.
And I don't get it, because unless you've got SANFL, if the SANFL falls away, if you lose Port and the Crows and a team goes under, geez, where is it at?
Yep.
And I don't think they look at the overall picture anywhere near enough.
Is it a case of maybe splitting the season up and having night competition earlier in the year if the AFLW are not going to make use of that time?
I've had that thought process for a long time now.
Yep. Where you could potentially have 2 seasons within the 1 year.
Come February, you're dying for footy.
Yep.
And that's where, for mine, if you lose Port and that's the problem. You got Port and Adelaide in the comp. You can't start earlier then, which in that way it's annoying.
It sort of hamstrings you a little bit.
So,
is it a case of the other 8 clubs getting together and doing something during that period?
Yeah, but I don't think you can do it without Port and Adelaide.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's...
Well, I'm thinking back to the old Escort Cup or Foundation Cup days where you did have that night competition.
I think it's got to be for
points.
points. I reckon it's got to be points back then. Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting watch. All right, let's move on to the AFLW. First things first, congratulations to Ebony Marinoff. 100 games of greatness. The reigning women's medalist, certainly well and truly one of Adelaide's best players for a continued period of time. Her kicking has probably let her down over the journey. We've talked about that from time to time, but she is a heart and soul player.
Oh, look, effort-wise, massive tick. Footy smart's going to the right spot. And
still
all that.
needs a little bit to learn.
Yeah.
See ball, get ball.
Yeah, and look, it's a really hard one to get out of a player. It's, Patrick Dangerfield's been guilty of that at times over the years,
Absolutely.
So it's not just there, but I just think I would have liked to see a bit more improvement in other areas. That's
Absolutely. All right, let's talk Adelaide on the weekend. Only scoring 1 goal up to 3/4 time, and then all of a sudden they kicked 6 in the last, mate.
Yeah, which has happened in 2 games now. That was also trying to think who they were playing. Was that Unley early in the year?
Might have been St Kilda.
trying to think, it might have been Geelong,
Yep.
I think. So, yeah, a little bit of a worry there. But at least they got home. But, yeah, I think Matty Clark could be worried that it's not a bit more consistent overall at the moment.
Well, they are in the finals. In the final four or the top four. That just shows that their level of consistency over the years has been very, very
I think
good.
they're still going to. I think they're going to really regret the St Kilda round 1 loss in the
Yep.
end. So
We'll watch how that one goes. And Port Adelaide just going down in a nail biter to Geelong, but it was a controversial rushed behind that had everybody talking. What were your thoughts on it, and what did you think?
poor umpiring, and which the AFL have now confirmed. Yeah, I saw it, and I just shook my head.
Poor young lady couldn't get up off her knees, and the ball just kept rolling away from her. Yeah,
Poor umpiring.
just couldn't.
And I
couldn't
don't
quite get it.
understand how an umpire has got to that level.
Yep.
And not understood that rule.
Yep.
It was really bad. Poor.
The one big thing from the weekend was the Sydney v Giants game had record crowds with the Giants getting
Yeah.
up over their older brothers, the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, incredible. 7,500. Yeah, fantastic. So, yeah, you wouldn't have thought that would have happened in Sydney. So, yeah,
No.
quite incredible.
You've almost got the same number of crowd going to that game to
Games.
some NRL games.
Oh, and also really not far different from GWS crowds in general.
Yep.
So
Whatever's working up there whatever's in the water up there is certainly working for the AFL and the AFLW. Well done to both clubs that are involved. All right, let's talk basketball. First up, Montrezl Harrell might not be a starter for the Adelaide 36ers. There is talk that the club and him may part ways after a little bit of a drug allegation over when he was playing in China.
yeah, it sounds like not sure that for
Stupidity wins.
yeah, well, and also thinking not
Thinking that it wasn't a performance enhancing drug.
yeah, and
Yep.
also thinking that the rules in not understand and not bothering to find out that it's regarded totally different in China compared to America.
Yep.
Yeah, dumb, but yeah,
What do the Adelaide 36ers do? Because they're backed into a corner, aren't they?
oh, massively. So wait to see.
He is certainly a crowd pleaser, so that'll be an interesting one to see how it goes. The Adelaide 36ers played in an exhibition game against one of the Greek teams that are over here at the moment. They're actually flying at three-quarter time and just faded out a little bit in the last quarter, but they will be better for the run. It is only a preseason game, and it's really the first time that all of these guys have played together, and also Bryce Cotton hadn't donned the Guernsey yet either, so their sort of number one man wasn't there, and also Harrell wasn't there either. So to be around the mark with a European giant, I think's got Adelaide in good stead for the season ahead.
Yeah, always take those results with a grain of salt because, you don't know how serious the opposition are taking it. You don't know how many players they're resting and all that sort of thing.
They're out on holiday as well.
Yeah.
All right, mate, we better get off to a last quick break. Coming up, we've got, on Friday, we've got Matty Krieg, Part 2. And we have had some issues getting the Krieg AWENS Part 2 going, but we've got it all sorted for this week.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking to buy or sell your home anywhere in Adelaide, from the hills to the sea? Meet Gary KRIEVS, your dedicated local agent from OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. With unparalleled knowledge of Adelaide's housing market and a commitment to exceptional service, Gary ensures a smooth and stress-free experience for all your real estate needs. Trust the expert, trust Gary KRIEVS at OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. Your next dream home awaits. Contact Gary today on 0422 071 317 or on email garyk@ocre.com.au. And for more listings, please visit owenscasserly.com.au. Make it happen.
Flashbacks.
Goran Ivanisevic. Wimbledon means something special to him. Question, that left shoulder, will it stand up? Because that's what people are saying is going to restrict him. And there it is. Certainly a superb performance by Goran Ivanisevic.
For Goran Ivanisevic.
He said Goran Ivanisevic, he went through earlier today on centre court. He defeated Marat Safi in the number 4 seed. He won it in 4 sets, 7-6, 7-5, 3-6, 7-6. And if you thought his celebration the other day was impressive, well, it was even better today.
And there it is. A wild card. Goran Ivanisevic, for the 4th time, will play for the Wimbledon Championship.
Is over. We have
Extra time. Big finish.
All right, mate, and Goran Ivanisevic on an amazing run as a wild card entrant to the Wimbledon Championships there, and ends up beating our man Pat Rafter in the end.
I would have enjoyed it more if he wasn't playing Pat Rafter on that.
Yep.
So
9-7 in the 5th set's pretty amazing, but it was sort of his last hurrah. He'd been to 3 Wimbledon finals, obviously, before, as they said. And the shoulder was obviously the one issue that just got on a roll and was unbelievable.
a certain SK Warren did not want to wear the baggy green when the others did.
Yep.
So yes.
Yep. And obviously Australia playing in the Ashes at that time as well, and had to decide which way you were going to go, whether you're going to watch the cricket or you're going to watch the tennis. But well done to Goran Ivanisevic, and Pat Rafter obviously involved with the world team in the Laver Cup, obviously downing the European team as well. So Andre Agassi led that team, assisted by Pat Rafter. So we thought we'd add that in there tonight as well. So well done to Team World. Alex Diminor had a very, very good win during the tournament there to sort of get himself that confidence back up again after a little bit of a shock exit at the US Open and probably even bigger shock in losing the first round tie in the Davis Cup. Yeah. So very, very interesting. The Australian Open not too far away. Australia should Australia keep the Grand Slam long term moving forward?
Oh, bloody oath! It's a very successful event. Mm-hmm. I don't see why you would change any of the 4 Grand Slams.
Yep. Could we add a 5th Grand Slam? And that's probably where I'm sort of angling a little bit.
Yeah, possibly. Well, they sort of regard that
the Masters
as the unofficial 5th Grand Slam.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. It's a case of trying to fit it all into the calendar at the moment. So, yeah, very, very interesting to see how that goes. But I thought I'd just throw that one out there. All right, let's move on to the athletics, mate. I know you wanted to talk about that just briefly.
Yeah, look, overall, some promising results for Australia overall for the future. Gout, in terms of, looking like that he is only still a kid.
Yep.
And where he could get to.
Yes.
Jessica Hull getting the bronze and then making the final in the 800. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Nicola Olslagers getting winning the high jump gold medal.
Yes.
And so some promising signs there for Australia overall in the world athletics.
Bit frustrating that the relay team got disqualified for a guy stepping over the line. So
yeah, there was that. There was also the discus where it was raining so much.
Yes.
Was a bit unlucky there. So yeah, a
little bit unlucky, but we'll keep an eye on that and maybe talk about that a little bit more in depth next week. All right, let's talk cricket, mate. Obstruction controversy for Marnus Labuschagne. Does the rule need to be changed or modified?
I haven't seen it yet. I better have a look.
Yeah, stepped in the way of a player basically being able to have a little run at the stumps.
He's a different cat. So, yeah, that's out.
Yep.
In terms of that, I want to see it. I want to see it. I will, mate. I'll have a look, Google it up and have a look.
I wanted to bring it to
so,
the rule book's attention, that's for sure.
Yeah, I wish I knew because I would have had a look
No, that's
by
okay.
now, so.
Adelaide cricket results, unfortunately, going down in their first one-dayer.
Yeah, disappointing against New South Wales. Our batting was terrible. So round 2 is tomorrow against Western Australia at Carrolton. I'll certainly pop along there at some stage. So
hopefully the conditions are quite nice as well.
Yeah.
All right, the Adelaide Turf Premier League competition, signings and player movement. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth next week. Got a couple of weeks before the start of the season, and it's usually that last-minute flurry that comes in. So
yeah, it's still
we'll
a bit
sort of
early.
follow that.
Yeah, I haven't really chased anything up yet. So I'd heard Grange had picked up a couple as always.
Yes.
So I'd do a bit of delving there. And, of course, district cricket is generally is the week earlier.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's coming up as well.
Absolutely. Well, we'll do that in more depth after next week's grand final review. All right, before we get into the rulebook rant for this week, we won't do the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll finish off with the rulebook rant. Please like, rate, subscribe, and share with friends, family, and teammates. All right, mate. Everyone's been hanging out for this one. Let me play our intro.
So the AFL decide to be the moral police in terms of the whole Isaac Rankin and homophobic comments, and we discussed that at length, and how the draconian punishment and increasing it does, it's never worked on anything. So come the Brownlow last night, though, all of a sudden there's not the mark against Isaac Rankin. All of a sudden he's still eligible. Now, again, the hypocrisy of the AFL, we seem to be talking about and using that word just so consistently about them.
Yep.
Yet again, it's bizarre administration and a weird oversight. And yet again, incompetent comes into it. If you've decided you're suspending him for 4 games, well, surely, therefore, he's ineligible for the Brownlow. Yep. And yet, oh, no, because it didn't happen in a game and that. Just, why worry about that bullshit? If you just said no, ineligible for the Brownlow, no one would have said a word after you've given that punishment.
That's exactly right.
You've now created more controversy and more attention to it. Yet again, by it is that he was eligible. Mm-hmm. I think he still should be eligible, personally. I'm not, you know my thoughts there. I've well and truly made my thoughts there. But yet again, AFL, administration-wise, court marsh bowl Lily, no score yet again. Couldn't run a piss up in a brewery.
Bang, ladies and gentlemen, there you go, the rulebook rant. All right, mate, we better wind things up there. We thank our listeners. I thank you, mate, for joining us once again. Thanks for bearing with us early on there. We were stumbling around like a drunken grand finalist on a winning tour, but we got there in the end. But we promise to do better next week, and until then, see you then.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at SportsCastSA. We'll see you next time on Game On.